How do you guys start? Like, hey guys, it's Ryan and Dimitri, and we're here with episode 9043. Oh my God, everyone, look at me.
That's exactly how we start. Thank you.
Yeah,
welcome
it's
to the
ironically
Controversial
exactly how we
Exchange,
do it.
everyone.
All right, I'll let you guys go ahead.
It's our sequin. We get our sequin jacket on, and we
I
get some
love
like
it.
fucking flair going.
No, we literally just jump into it.
We're
So
literally
welcome.
we've already started our podcast. We just start talking. Like that's
I love
usually
it. Let's do it. Let's
like
do
we're
it.
not. So it's usually that.
Sorry
We
I
were-
took so long.
We
You're
were
fine.
queuing up. You were asking Dimitri, I think, like where Study Notes ABA started, right?
Oh yeah, we're talking about that. And then we're so
Let's kick
hold
off
on.
there,
We're quick.
and then we'll see where we go.
Just because you asked me where Columbus. Where I'm from Columbus, Ohio. You're from Texas, Liat. You said
Dallas, yes.
Dallas, Texas. Okay. You a Mavs fan? Like Mark Cuban?
I like Mark, but I really don't follow sports, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm just fucking. I don't know. I'm just trying to make small talk.
I mean, I have tickets to the game because I was like helping someone else who lives in New York and like wanted to sell them. So like they had to do it under my name, but I like attended just for the sake of showing face for them to keep. It's hard to get Dallas tickets.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. And then Casey, where you at?
I'm from New Hampshire, and Brady, big news this week, guys, coming in hot. The same day we lost toilet paper, we lost TB. Real sad.
He's like
As
176 though, right? So it's
Yeah.
kind of okay.
Yeah.
Like,
That
it's like
guy's-
Methuselah retired. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, that guy's
He's-
old.
It's a lot of
He's
sadness
old.
though.
Got 6 trophies, or what do you call them? Rings? I don't even know.
Trophies.
Rings. Got
yes.
those rings.
I'm such a big fan.
I'm a humongous fan. Not fair weather at all. No. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of big shit happened in the news these days.
So how do you? So I guess we can do a couple different things. We can just like banter and fuck around and not really talk about anything, or we can kind of like talk about some stuff. Do you guys want to talk about some stuff? Like, do you guys
Okay.
want to talk about your podcast
No.
a little bit?
Probably not.
Well, let's do it anyway.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I was a rhetorical question. I was actually
Yeah.
I was like half leading you towards what I want you to do.
I had
so, like,
to F with you. Yeah.
So Behavior Bitches podcast was the result of, so Study Notes ABA is our test prep company, or that I started in 2018 when I became a BCBA. It actually was by accident because I was telling you a little bit before the episode that I had a crazy injury that resulted in me losing 3 fingertips. It froze off from an operation. I was supposed to be studying for my test then. And then I was like, oh, I need a gallbladder surgery, and my fingertips froze off. So I'm like, okay, my goal of being a BCBA is shot. Like, I couldn't do anything and literally had no brain cells. I was on so many pain meds watching my fingers decompose. So Study Notes ABA started because once I got my fingertips amputated, I started posting all my beautiful notes on Instagram, and people were following it. And I was like, I have funny shit and funny ways to teach this shit to people. So that's what I did. And I started offering free classes all off Instagram, and people, I guess, bit onto it. Casey was one of those people, actually, who it wasn't even a real business, I guess. And she took the class, and that's how Study Notes ABA came to be, teaching.
It was 2018. I was in my master's program at Antioch University in Keene, New Hampshire. 11 of us in our cohort.
nice.
And, you know, I had a ton of study prep material already under my belt. I'm a wicked overachiever, teacher's pet, like super perfectionist, just my personality. And I found randomly this test prep company that said 2 chicks, 1 test. And I'm like, I know that porn. 2 chicks, 1 cup. I'm like, I love this girl.
Porn. I think it's like a gag joke kind of thing, but whatever.
Well, it's everyone's preference, right?
Oh man.
So I saw she was offering this thing called the Collective, and I'm like, I don't even know what that is, but it's.
I thought it sounded trendy, to be honest. I was like, it sounds millennial, cool, the Collective, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I signed up, and I freaking got my whole cohort too. There was, I think, 30 of us in your first collective, half of them from being from my university. And Liat and I literally fell in deep love, like sister love for life.
To the point that you show up to a podcast recording in the same color shirt, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, not even
We
playing.
have uniforms. We have work uniforms.
Yes.
For anybody that's not watching this, we are pretty much all in pink red shades today. Completely coincidental.
I'm take a pic.
Cool. So, like, what's your role in it right now, Casey?
In study notes,
Yeah.
So basically, Liat, without going into too much personal detail, Liat was teaching with someone else, running the collective. And when I was in the collective, she, sought me out. She was like, you are gonna work for me the second you pass this exam. No idea where Study Notes was going. It wasn't like that was like making any money. We were just shooting the shit. And I passed my exam. I became a clinical director at my my job that I was working at clinically. And Liat basically was like, all right, I want you to come teach with me. So I started running my own collective. She put me on this. She's one. If you want someone to push you out of your comfort zone or like make you feel like real crazy, she'll do it to you. And she was like, I want you to teach an experimental design class for free on YouTube for everyone. And it's your audition. And I was like, what? I'm like,
audition.
Oh yeah. I'm like,
what?
Oh. Like I'm also like, I like to know what's going to happen. I don't like things not knowing what's going to whatever.
Is that why you asked us like 3 times what we were going to talk about today? And we just said, don't worry about it. We'll get there.
I know Casey has been like, why don't we know what we're talking about today? Why don't we know what we're talking about? I'm like, dude, I don't know. We'll just get on there. I was like, maybe they're punking us and they want us to come on and like pull some prank.
Nope.
No, it's more like we're completely unprepared and just go straight off the fucking cuff. So it's like we added an outline 4 or 5 episodes ago, and it like got a lot more academically oriented in the better road and that kind of thing, but a lot less spontaneous. And we figured you're the spontaneous queen.
Yeah, if
so
there's a spontaneous crew to work with, it's probably
we'd go off the.
Yeah.
We'd go back.
And there's so
with some
much going
spontaneity.
on that we'll get
Yeah,
to,
there is.
So
I mean, you got to think like we're in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. Unemployment's out of control.
Yeah.
Like the government might not exist next year. I mean, like
or tomorrow.
or tomorrow. Behavior analysts across the board. Like I have so many friends right now who are sitting at home doing nothing. And
Are you kidding
I
me? Do
feel
you know how many people
horrible for
we
them.
know? Like,
Yeah.
Like it's insane. My Instagram and Facebook messages that are coming in from people who are our previous students who we maybe not only just helped pass the exam, got brand new jobs and lost them because now they're the brand new BCBAs. They're the first to go.
Uh-huh.
Trying to learn telehealth, but maybe not part of their scope of competence because they've never done that. It's insane.
It's crazy.
Our whole current field.
Yeah,
Before we
shit
get into
just got
that,
upside
though,
down.
I'll try to be a little bit happier and saying that, I just came to teach with Liat and I did my audition and I ran my own collective for 3 months, which is teaching. We teach live. We teach 2
I
classes
like how
a
you
week.
came full circle there, Casey. I see how you brought it back.
Thank
No,
you.
that's good. That's very well played. That's
I mean,
But then in the meantime, we had started our podcast.
That's
Behavior
proper
Bitches.
marketing.
Yeah, exactly. She's really trying to throw it in there.
Push that shit.
Economic times are hard, so the tests are closed.
So
We
spend
got
some
push,
money,
push,
motherfuckers.
push.
Like,
Have you guys heard of the collective?
the
so do you guys limit? So what? So the idea is that you put together what, a 3-month class or 30-day class? Is that the deal? Like, what's the structure?
So it's 10 weeks.
Okay.
It's 20 classes. We meet twice a week for 2 hours.
Oh wow.
And we have broken down the entire task list where it builds on each other. And the examples are like inappropriate examples so people will remember. I mean, I don't know how inappropriate it get on here, so I won't say anything.
You can get as explicit as you'd
You
like.
can get as
So like, for
as juicy
example,
as you want.
people won't forget stuff when they come to our class. Like if I'm teaching people about a DRO, right? I draw out a DRO and I make the O look like a butthole, okay? Like I like doodle it like a butthole. And I'm like, listen, if you have someone who sticks their finger in their butthole and you want them to do any other behavior aside from stick their finger in their butthole, so they're never going to forget that DRO is any other behavior. It's like crazy examples, and I'm willing to make myself look stupid for some of them just for the sake of people remembering, and people don't forget. And so we have lots of examples like that, and but people really actually enjoy studying and understand the idea that studying can be reinforcing and fun and entertaining. And it's a mix of me always being the Chelsea Handler / Amy Schumer I always wanted to be. And
I'm like the
Casey's
super
like my
planner,
Chewy.
like
You're like
Oprah.
my Chewy. You're like my Chewy. Chelsea Handler's
Oh
Chewy.
my god.
Like
She
if
just
you guys
compared you
could think
to
of Chewy, that's
May
really
his soul rest in peace.
One
But,
for me, one for choose.
Yeah,
Miss you forever, buddy.
exactly.
You brought
That's how
joy
it
to
started.
millions.
Exactly. And that's how it started. Then the Behavior Bitches podcast started because people were like, we want to be able to listen while we're driving around, And we're like, okay, we could shoot the shit. Again, me trying to live onto my being a comedian dream that I always wanted. And then here I am with the behavior bitches. It just seemed like a good name. It was a little edgy.
I honestly can't believe the shit you guys get away with. Like if Ryan and I try to do some edgelord shit like that early on, Carl Binder like ripped me to shreds. Like people gave us so much shit, it's crazy. And
no, I think you guys are a lot smarter.
Super proud of you.
No, I think you guys are a lot smarter.
Man,
I mean, in one sense, it's like when we got on here, it's like, okay, who are these girls calling themselves bitches? That just like automatically makes them seem dumber. But it's like, wait, these girls actually kind of do know what they're talking about and are relating it to people who are everyday people, you know, and that's kind of like what Study Notes ABA does as a brand. So we just carried it on through the podcast. I mean, we've got some shit, don't get me wrong. We have got some pushback.
You guys think of me as over here, like, oh,
I know, but did you show up and you're like, oh my God, did you just give a butthole example? Is there a non-anal equivalent to this that I can think of?
Oh, then I'll give a clinical one, and then I'll be like, all right, so you have a kid who likes to like, you know, or you have someone who like eye
likes to finger their chode instead their asshole because you don't want to get that dark.
Now, so this is one of those things that was interesting to me because after playing around on the internet for a few years in this realm, people will send me stuff and it was like, oh my God, have you seen this? Oh my God, have you seen this podcast? And I was like, let me give it a listen. Clicked in, listened to a couple episodes, and it was just like one of those things where it was the complete opposite end of the spectrum of like white male in a white shirt, academia setting, talking about behavior analysis, right?
Or people trying to sound like fucking PBS doing hot air, like, welcome to our behavior podcast, talking about the gentle moments of motivating operations and distributive stimuli. Like, just really fucking uppity. And I don't know, I really respected it, actually.
And so when I popped over, I'd seen your Study Notes page on Instagram before and things like that, and you're looking around, you can see through engagement sections of like, oh, these folks are getting traction. And what I usually end up in pretty quickly when there's something new going on is like talking with folks that are more, I don't know how to say it, like older guard, established in the field. And it's like, oh my God, have you seen this? And it's like, well, take a step back, let your emotions aside of like whatever it is that you're responding to right now, and just look at what's going on. I think the number one thing that was so clear, and I don't think any behavior analyst in the right mind could argue against, is that there is a strong contingent of people in this field that were not getting material in a way in which they now enjoy getting that material. Exactly. And so for me, it's like, you can talk as much trash on whatever it is. Like this, like a good analogy is music. Like there's music that genres, like that people absolutely hate. But you can't respect the fact that somebody figured out how to make music that somebody out there in the world likes, right? And that's how I've viewed a lot of behavior bitches and the Study Notes stuff is there's clearly a bunch of people that were looking for something like this. So y'all filled the niche. It's kind of up to y'all taking feedback if you want to and figure out what to do next. But
so we've had some feedback. We definitely have had feedback and we're open to it. And we want the smarter the person to come on, the more awesome it is. But we do want people to be able to let loose a little bit on our podcast.
Word.
Like I think it's cool when you have someone who's super educated, a badass in what they do, and they could come and just, you're like, this person's human. Let's humanize them. Let's talk about these different things, how they could apply. You know, people don't even realize. I think a lot of stuff is, my main thing is what I found when I was studying or different things. A lot of people become BCBAs and then they forget where they came from, right? It's like this, like, oh, I took the test. I've reached my peak in life. That's the end of it. It's like
base competency, bitch.
Yeah, it's like
that's what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Yeah, yep.
You know how much shit I get for saying that every fucking episode?
I'm telling you, like
every
trust
episode.
us.
I was like, this minimal competencies, Sweet Pea.
And listen, we tell our students that too. This is not like something that I'm afraid to say on this podcast. We tell our students when you pass this exam, yes, it's amazing. It is your base competency and you need to work your shit up and get all these type of CEUs. I already have in my first, I just passed a year.
She's such a CEU dropper. She's a CEU dropper. Get ready. And a name dropper. She'll be like, yeah, I took a CEU with Skinner. You heard of him? Yeah.
Did you resurrect his ass?
I'm like, literally, this is your base, right? This is, you are just born from the womb. And now what are you going to do? How are you going to walk? How are you going to crawl? Right? So,
dude,
It's so
the
important.
thing is that like with a lot of the base concepts, like, and I don't know when you guys teach it how detailed do you go? Like, is your stuff mostly like white book based, or do you have outside sources that you've used to kind of like spread it in, or do you use more like research literature, or is it just more textbook oriented?
So I think
it's Cooper oriented.
Okay, yeah, because the test is Cooper oriented, so no judgment. I'm just trying to gauge like what the material looks like. So like, here's the thing.
Question though. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Casey, you're like cutting in hard.
I'm sorry. The best part of my question though is that what you said, right? Cooper is the white book, which is what we base our test on. But we've evolved as teachers as we go on each collective. So now we've been teaching together for 4 collectives. And it's just insane the amount of shit that we have learned, right?
Yeah,
as
I love it.
Behavior analysts in applied settings, in reading more articles on Java and learning more in the field.
Reading every mock question ever.
Yeah.
Do you guys do clinical work still? You don't, Liat. Do you, Casey?
No, sorry. No. I'm shaking my head, but we're on a podcast. That's a no.
So, okay.
So let me tell you why I don't. First of all, I felt like study notes was at a tipping point. I was making more money at my clinical. It was like a bad, serious thing of matching law, right? I mean, I was making a full salary as my job as a BCBA at a clinic. And then I had study notes on the side, and I found myself always engaging in study notes. Like, it was like, oh, I could post this. This is a crazy example. Let me do this. Let me do that. And I was like, this is what I love to do. Now, I had mentioned I have lupus. And so it has affected my health in a lot of ways. Like, if someone is sick and they come in somewhere, like, I will be hospitalized for it. Leading up to this quarantine time we're in, I told Casey, I was like, this is my time to thrive. I've literally been preparing for this since 2012 when I was diagnosed. Like,
that's what my uncle said. My uncle's got like horrible diabetes, and like he's like deteriorated in a way where he can't feel his feet and shit anymore. He's like, motherfucker, I've been on quarantine for 9 years. I fucking prepared for this shit. Like, he was like very explicit about it. It's my Uncle Nick, man. Shout out. But yeah, it's that's great. That's good for you.
I mean, no,
Positive
please God, I don't get sick during this time. It's frightening as hell that if I get a flare-up or something and I can't get my typical like pain relief and like fluids, it's a scary time. But at the same time, I was like, I just got to get my mental health out of like realizing like nothing's different. I mean, yes, that economically things are different. I mean, tests aren't going on anymore. Right. I mean, it's a good time for people to study, but also if people don't have money, they can't study. You know, I mean, like, so we had to shift to those different areas, and, you know, we want to be able to help people, but also be able to, you know, meet our basic needs. It's just a weird time, but this is what I've been preparing for, essentially, I guess.
Sans pandemic, though, you guys were fine, right? Like you're making it reasonable.
So
like you're
say
replace your job.
So I will say this is that when I have been in the field working as an RBT, direct support professional for 10 years. Then I ran, when I got my BCBA, I was a clinical director, thrown right into a job where I had no idea what I was doing. And I'm talking like...
You know, like a week ago, they needed directors everywhere, new BCBA's directors that day. That was like a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But this was not a week ago. This is like a year ago.
I'm saying in the old days, you know, like a week ago.
And so...
You remember back in the day last week?
Back in the day, buffet. So I was, you know, thrown into this job that a lot of crazy shit was happening, unethical stuff that I was seeing happen. And it made me like really sick. Like I was, you know, teaching the collective on like just Monday, Wednesday nights. We'd started Behavior Bitches podcast, and I was working full time, and I just realized like, oh my gosh, like, wow, what I was experiencing was a little bit alarming, and I'm not sure. I mean, I am sure because we have a lot of people reach out to us that listen to the podcast that are like, help me, ethics, help me. And I'm always like, email ethics hotline, John Bailey. Like,
yeah. What's your what's the like top 1 or 2 things that you get questions about? I'm just curious.
I would say one would be like RBTs that are doing things that BCBA should be doing.
And they're billing as a BCBA.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Fuck. Oh, my God.
You're just asking for jail time.
Medicaid fraud is a fucking federal felony, folks.
So,
that's
guys,
stupid.
Get that all the time.
Next.
I mean, even where I worked, it was like not ethical. And I'd be like, and it starts, and I think a lot of people also need to be aware that it's not only bad people who get into these like unethical behaviors. It's shaped by what you're seeing, you're imitating, right? Or you have these pressures, these MOs, Liat, you need to meet your 40 hours this week. It's like, dude, I don't even have enough clients to meet 40 hours. So I'll round up 15 minutes here. I'll round up 20 minutes here. And I started realizing whoa, like this is happening. Like they're slowly fading me into doing these unethical things. And I don't like this because I have a brother with autism and I'd be like, or like this RBT they'd be putting in somewhere, like literally was like working at Subway the day before. The next day was like full on doing parent trainings, and the services were getting progressively shittier. And this is at a lot of places where I think, first of all, the field, the way that someone could literally be considered a behavior tech or RBT the next day without any experience is concerning a little bit. But I hear that from a lot of people also. And, they're like, oh, well, we have 40 hours to meet, so we better find someone to put in there, as opposed to being like, hey, well, we have a wait list right now, or we don't have the staff. So I saw that a lot. And I do hear that from other students reaching out too.
And
dude,
supervision,
the bill
guys.
and kill is real. The supervision, like what?
Like
they hold it
not
over their
getting
head.
good.
Like, look, I'm not going to sign your papers if you don't do this.
Oh, no. I'm talking about like, think of this. And Ryan, you were at a conference that I was at in Mass. Remember, it was Kim Behrens was talking about, remember standardized acceleration?
Hashtag name drop.
Yeah. What? Summarize it for people though. Like what part
I'm
of it?
going to summarize it being like, okay, so for the data a lot of data that we take, right, is on like line graphs. So you can really make that line graph look however you want by scaling that axis. Okay. Is that standardized? No. Is a standard celerization chart standardized? Yes.
Wait,
right?
I think you meant to say acceleration.
Yes. What did I say?
She's getting worked up.
It's fine. It's fine. Just go with it. It's fine.
Standard acceleration chart standardized?
That's fine.
Yes.
Yes, that's a word. Celerization is a word. Right now, for now,
I
it's
remember
a word.
what you're talking about. So Kim Behrens was a presenter there. She's from the precision teaching community. She's one of the, I would say, co-founders and like part owners in the IP that is behind the intellectual property behind Fit Learning. So Fit Learning essentially does essentially what they do is education on steroids. It'll take roughly 40 hours of instruction to get an entire grade level, say from 6th or 7th grade or 8th to 9th grade or 4th to 5th grade in a subject matter. So that 40 hours of instruction is all it takes to get there. And so what she was talking about was essentially this gap of your minimum competency and your BCBA may be the minimum competency that somebody set out there, but it's actually, I think she was hitting on a couple things. It's not enough, which we already hit on, but also that it's rooted in things that aren't actually the best practice of the science that we've figured out empirically. And I think that's the thing that she was really railing on is, like you're being deemed competent enough to go in there, but you're actually don't even develop the skill sets during that 2-year period or however long it takes you to acquire certification to be using the best practices that our field knows about. Like there's this huge disconnect because essentially what goes on is the most popular thing that BCBAs say is important is what ends up on that task list. Mm-hmm. And that was the big issue. Yeah, like the way in which validity. They sampled those. Yeah, it's whack.
Who cares?
Dude.
Who cares about social validity?
Whoever tries to justify that when I hear that,
I really don't.
It's whack.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about social validity. Like, do they like it? I don't care. Is it working? Yes or no? Like,
right,
if it's working, they'll fucking like it.
But is that what makes something socially valid? I thought the fact that I thought it actually means that it's like meaningful for like meaningful outcomes and apply.
Social significance is about meaningful
that's right.
outcomes.
You're right.
Social validity is about basically satisfaction. I mean, or like acceptability within the social framework or whatever.
Yeah.
Like there's a distinction. Yeah, and that's the big problem. Like the push for social validity is basically like customer centric, person centric. All that stuff's fine for the most part, but like we do one of the few jobs where the customer's not always fucking right. That's just the bottom line. And like being able to have a conversation.
But you got to say it in a nice way. Like, I I don't think Kumon's the most important thing if your child cannot communicate.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like my classic example.
Or, I would love to guide his fingertips to his device, like you're saying, and facilitate their communication. But unfortunately, that's, not scientific and me putting words in his mouth and horrendous. So I won't do that. So, and if you want me to do that, we can't do business together. I can't have
Why did Kim come up though?
No, but what? I was saying, I was just going to say that I think the biggest issue though that we hear from is people are not getting appropriate supervision, right?
Yeah.
So think about, and Liat and I had this great idea. Maybe don't want to share it all here, but
breaking news. Drop it. This is Behavior Bitches motherfucking sneak peek preview fucking exclusive shit.
Think about this, right? So you have to take this exam, right? Like people have to take their medical boards, right? And we have to have 1,500 hours of supervision. And guess what? Everyone gets different supervision. There are very minimum standards. I know personally, I did not have great supervision. Was I taught all these things in real life? No, right? I had to teach them myself by going to get CEUs. So getting real life supervision, like a residency program of here's your residency in early childhood. Here's your residency in adults. Here's your residency in severe injurious behaviors. And you have to pass all of those steps is really, if we're this medically deemed profession, sorry, I'm so passionate about this, but I know Ryan and I were talking, we were texting back and forth, and it's like, so many people are just like, oh, got my hours. I don't even know what I did. They just signed off on them. Really? That's
because
cool.
the demand so high was a week ago. The demand for BCBAs was so high.
It'll be back.
And it's like, well, we need as many people as we can. Like every clinic's main goal is to grow their own BCBAs, right? And so it's like, well, I'll just sign off. But it's weird that we are the only field. Never mind. I shouldn't say that. I don't know for other fields, but I just could compare it to other medical fields that I know about that I have friends in, that it's like, okay, you passed, you could go. Like I passed the test. I had no effing idea what I was doing when I was thrown into a clinic. And I was like, sweet, they want to make me director next week. That's sick. Wait, why are you coughing? This is not the time to be coughing.
Sorry, Dimitri
I have dry
coughs.
throat. It's I'm just like asthmatic a little bit, and
plus we're 100%
moist
remote
down here.
Like you guys are like literally 1,000 miles apart. You could not be more.
Yeah, you're fine. You can't get what I have through the mics. You're good.
The idea of
saying with this corona, people aren't allowed to cough. You see, like people are farting to cover their coughs as opposed to coughing to cover their farts.
Dude, I have really dry throat. I cough a lot when we're doing these things.
No, I support you doing it. I just wanted you to know that like right now, people are gonna run a million miles.
I hope they do. Honestly, it'd be better for all of us.
So that idea of basically certifying more specifically to a skill set in like other areas, in a sense, has been on and off talked about in our community. I think it's been a little bit hotter in like social circles to talk about recently. But there was something that started just recently called the Progressive Behavior Analyst Autism Council, which is starting with a credentialing autism professional or credential for autism professionals. And hear this, it is, I believe, 8,000 hours after your BCBA certification is what they're asking. There's video demonstration of skills and things like that. It's pretty crazy. And they've stated in there that it's also a first step, and they want to be able to go beyond just focusing on the autism specific. But since so many people in our field have those gaps, they want to start to try to fill those. I have no clue how. It sounds ambitious and a lot, and I don't work in that area, and I'm not going to pursue it, but it's from the folks, the Autism Partnership Foundation out in Seal Beach, California.
My gut reaction to that is, what the fuck are they thinking?
I mean, is this who did the free RBT?
Yeah, they did the free RBT.
Which I think that's amazing. I really do.
However, sorry, I need to clarify that. Autism Partnership Foundation is where I heard about it. There's a number of their people that are on the board, but it is established with a bunch of different people as well. So it's not.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Leaf has published. He's written like 5 articles on the state of the field stuff. So that's kind of like
including
his thing.
Like totally bashing the RBT and the minimum competencies of things.
Absolutely.
So, anyhow,
I agree with him on a lot of stuff.
If you work 40 hours a week with supervision, so if you do 8,000 divided by 40
it's like
hours
4 years.
It's 200 weeks.
Oh yeah, no,
4
this
years.
is not a fast thing, and it's purposely meant to not be that. We've seen the other thing that we've seen in a related field was with the ACT and RFT community. They had what they called an ACT peer-reviewed trainer, which brought in the peer review process of like multiple people had to say whether or not you were developing the skills you're supposed to be developing and like coaching you. And so the idea is that you didn't just have one supervisor, you had a number of supervisors, right? And it was also over a longer period of time. And that one seemed pretty cool as well. But the problem with both of these is that they take time, right? And that's what we also saw with the regular supervision process is that this is probably like easier to talk about in hindsight, but I feel like a little bit of forethought could have figured this out. When you have one of the fastest, literally the BACB said, this is one of the fastest growing credentials ever. They had data on that. And then you're going to say, okay, that we're going to also make sure that everybody that is coming into this, as well as everybody that is an RBT level that we're going to add, has to be supervised by somebody when you have the most fast growing ever. And then you add those constraints on an already like tapped out BCBA market. It was just bound to cause these problems, right? Like
Totally.
we were bound to have shitty supervision as a result of this, with exceptions of people that have figured out how to make it a part of their day-to-day or part of their living, or that like potentially go up to the point of burning themselves out.
Yeah, man, but isn't it also like, unless you do something like medical doctors have to go through or lawyers have to go through where it's like intensive practicum residency type shit, like you're going to get that kind of result? I mean, think social
why
workers.
shouldn't it be
For
that?
sure.
Why shouldn't it be that?
Well, because you don't make doctor money, number one. But number two is, I mean, it'd be nice if you did. I don't know. You making doctor money? Shit. I got a friend who's a doctor, and I can tell you right now, I ain't fucking
took a
touching his
huge
money.
pay cut. No.
But I mean, like, you make doctor money, number one, and number two, number two is that like, it doesn't at some point in time, in my opinion, you can't like regulate or dictate people's willingness to self-enrich themselves and get good at a thing. At some point in time, you have to decide this is your craft, this is the thing that you believe in, this is who you are, this is what you want to do, and like you commit yourself to it and you engage it appropriately. Like I don't know, like for me it's more like, fine, 8,000 hours, cool story, unless that becomes like a mandatory thing like the BCBA in order for you to get access to a CAC number to build insurance. There's no fucking way anyone's going to be like, you know what, sign me up for 8,000 hours of external fucking review.
And that's exactly what happened with
Casey's that type to do it.
That's what happened with the ACT peer review trainer, though, is that they only saw a certain number of people signing up and there wasn't enough people. And it's because they've always they've never been a community to say that you have to get trained in a certain way for those
back to
things.
the matching law whole thing. I mean, is the juice worth the squeeze on that? I mean, come on. Like, what are you getting out of that?
I think a total reasonable
Juice worth
thing.
the squeeze. That's cool. I'm going to start dropping that line.
You're
welcome.
That was probably a little bit before your time. Your age.
That's my old man talk coming through. That's my
What was I gonna say? How to do? So for example, like with us being more and more situated in a medical model, I think it's reasonable that they do potentially head that direction of you need to have a little bit more specialization. Like that's what we see in physical therapy. PhD programs, things like that. And I think our field would freak if it was like, oh, I have to move across the country to be able to get a placement, to be able to check off the box of working with this population or in this setting. But I mean, if you look at most really competent BCBAs, they've had a number of years where they experienced a lot of different things. They realized what they like, what they didn't like, and then they slowly fit into it. And programming for something like that seems smart.
And can we talk about real quick? Can I be controversial real quick since we're on this?
Yeah, please make that exchange.
That's the wrong podcast. Sorry.
Right? This test, I don't know what the pass rate exactly is, right? I don't know, something around like 68%. I'm not quite sure what the pass rate is, but like I have so many students that are amazing clinicians who I could sit with for hours and they could tell me everything they do. They could show me videos of them. They could do so many, right? But they can't pass the exam and they're on there like, multiple times. So where is our field kind of losing the way to train people that it's not just about the test, it's both? And how do we
well, you know what?
Yeah.
What I see, okay, so this is why I really feel passionate about Study Notes ABA. You can find that at www.studynotesaba. Just kidding.
Cut that. We're going to cut that.
I was joking.
You're good.
This is not a paid promotional video.
I was kidding.
Organic.
Because you guys said earlier, you're like, you keep dropping it. No, but
plug away. Yeah.
What I was saying, no, but seriously, because I get so many people who are like, oh, I didn't realize that was reinforcement too when I was texting that guy back when he talks rude to me, when he calls me an ugly bitch and I respond back to him and go hook up with him. I'm like, yeah, dude, reinforcement in your real life too. I think that people are not realizing that it does go beyond autism also. And I think that a lot of people I've seen like success with them when they're understanding that behavior is beyond just what they're doing on a VB map inside of a clinic.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's also a problem, people not generalizing the skill. And because the test, for example, is not just on autism. You know, it could be about dolphin training or something
It's
along
on
those
behavior
lines.
principles, yeah.
Right. So I think that's also a problem.
There was this interesting thing that happened like in a few. So, for example, the methods, the way in which people would design like research questions used to be approached totally differently, like in the 60s and 70s. And it was people taught what they called baseline logic on how to answer the question you were trying to ask through a research diagram, a research program. And so you weren't taught like multiple baseline, ABA, withdrawal. You weren't taught those. You were taught which of these things that are components of those would help you solve the question that you're asking from a research perspective. And then what we saw as things started scaling up more and more and more is that new books that came out were basically just shortcutting and like not teach the logic. Let's just teach what these different designs are. And then what comes with those usually is strength, weaknesses, exemplars, right? And those
advantages,
sort of things.
Disadvantages. Well,
And it's like if you learned the English language or another language by just learning a bunch of different catchphrases and like getting tens of thousands of these things learned. Much like we see with issues of people that have disabilities, and we're teaching them like not functionally the correct way that we know for teaching actual like inductive sort of language, right? And so it's like our field, I think, paints these same pictures of what happens is it starts growing a little bit too fast or doesn't have quite the right person in the subject matter expert role. And what happens is the pressure of the contingencies of now, oftentimes capitalism, sometimes demand, sometimes a marriage of those, is just pushing everything forward rather than us stepping back and designing it how we know it should be designed. And that's, from all my historical reading and talking with folks that have been in the field forever, I think that's why you have these fractions of behavior analysts that are just kind of like really badass, really cool people, but you don't see them involved in things. They just go solve a problem here or there, and really cool shit. Like the group that did HeadSprout and designed HeadSprout, they spent 7 or 8 years, $15-16 million, like being able to design how to teach a kid to read without ever hearing or seeing them. That's something that like is unbelievable behavior analytics skills. But
that's cool.
But that's gone. That's lost. And like that, those people actually aren't really a part of the BCBA community. And it's like, because we just don't design our cultural level. We just let the natural contingencies just push it forward.
It's like, hey, memorize ABAB, memorize multiple baseline, memorize alternating treatment goes with functional analysis. But guess what? The basis is, Ryan, what you just said. If you don't understand baseline logic, prediction, verification, replication.
You were talking about like answering quiz questions. Like every question you can dissect based on like knowing what the principles are, knowing different areas of the research base, right? And unfortunately, like that's not what's taught. I know programs that literally have 5 to 10 pages of Cooper's books assigned for the reading per week in a master's level program. And it's fucking atrocious.
Or some that say don't read Cooper at all. You're like,
dude, I would actually say that shit. That's the thing. Like, I'd be the guy who said don't read Cooper. Like, I would say fine.
Oh my gosh, and I'd be like, that guy is so wrong.
Do you know how many mistakes? Do you know how many mistakes are in the Cooper book?
There's mistakes, but you should be to the point that
I found a few in the new Mayer book, and
you should be reading Cooper to the point that you're reading other things and catching those things.
Supplement.
Like that's what you should be doing, though.
All the MO chapters, the experimental analysis chapters, the measurement chapters, they're all very standard stock, like baseline definitions, which is fine.
Do you see me over here holding up my supplemental experimental design?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. But I'm just saying, like, if your only exposure is a textbook that has the most base level interpretation of all these phenomena, right? Yep. And then you want to think about applying it specifically, and you're only learning it in one context, autism, like you're getting a very like singular dimensional perspective on it. Like, you're not learning the robust, like, overall wraparound potential, 360 potential of the different tools and
Also,
ideas.
where in Cooper is supervision?
Oh, you mean, that's nowhere to be found, for sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. So, like,
where in life is supervision? Just that one supervision book by Reed? Like, in general, I think
you would have to go to, like, OBM stuff. So, like, Measure of a Leader by what's his name?
Aubrey Daniels.
And
like that kind of stuff. You have to go to, like, leadership
pulling out
literature.
books left and right, guys.
I mean,
look at you. This is the book podcast. Bust that shit out. Show us what you got. I love it.
I love this one.
My point there was that the contingency is shaped up. How fast can we churn out a BCBA credential rather than how fast can we equip somebody to be able to handle behavioral issues that they may face.
The amount, let's say, even if we're just working with the population with autism, how many kids are in need of services? A lot. What is it? 1 in 42 kids maybe has autism?
But that's the whole point, right? You got to get comfortable with not meeting the demand.
When do you have time? But when do you have time to provide good supervision? If you are actually writing programs and stuff for your kid, when do you have time? It's really hard.
No, and that was my point. Is for whatever reason, it was deemed that the best way to go about making better BCBAs was putting on an already full caseload of a BCBA.
Casey, how do you like to think about supervision? Because I have my own little theory on it too, and I'm just curious what you guys' thoughts are. Which are the?
So, I just recently got called in by an old supervisor to supervise an RBT in a school district that is in, like, a very, very small town in New Hampshire. And I was like, sure, I can do that. Like, I've got a couple extra, 5 to 6 hours a month because RBT, 5% of their, behavior analytic hours.
I know.
So I went in and I'm like, there's no behavior analytic interventions happening here. There's no BCBA implementing any type of, like, they wanted to hire me to keep her RBT, but there was no behavior analytic services happening. Like,
yeah. And
so I had to really come back and be like, so they want a BCBA to supervise her, but not an actual BCBA for the school district, right? Do you know what I mean? Where I'm like,
yeah.
So
they want to use your credential to sign off on a thing and not actually have you perform what you're supposed to do, which is
so I'm like, do you want me to write behavior plans?
Function.
Right. Or do observations and create behavior plans for these kindergartens? And they're like, no, just supervise her. I'm like, on what? Like, no. And so that was really, really insane for me to be kind of a newly minted BCBA and have that put in my lap where I was like, emailing my mentors, like, and they're like, yeah, I don't know if that sounds right. I'm like, no, it doesn't sound right.
That's because special ed, exclusively special ed people, and this is going to be the thing that someone's going to say some horrible shit to me, but I don't care. People who major in special ed exclusively and don't get additional education like a board certification are fucking idiots for the most part, honestly. Like, I mean, like, I have I've encountered one special ed coordinator that I was like, this person is fucking smart. They get it. Like, for the most part, it's ditzy bibby bopper people who are just so excited to be here and just love their kids and have no idea what's going on.
No, but you don't know how much you don't know till you don't know. I was a special ed teacher, then my lupus made me have to leave it. But I was like, oh, whatever, I'll go do the ABA stuff. It's going to be so easy. My program at University of Maryland was really behavior-based. Then I'm like, holy shit, I know nothing.
Yeah. That's good, though. That's good.
I mean, what I was told
first
by
step of learning something.
A special educator was, I was like, hey, do I need a contract? Do I need a background check? What exactly is this? And I would just get back, you're fine, you're good, nothing. I'm like, what in the world is happening right now? And I took a huge pay cut by declining this, right? I could have said yes and make an extra, X amount of money a month to supervise an RBT and go out there once a month, but I'm not going to do that. That's unethical.
Yeah. Well,
excuse me, I'm a behavior bitch. I do not do that.
I'm already worried about everything all day being called a behavior bitch.
Dude,
there's no way.
That was one of the points I was going to make before when we were talking about all this other stuff we were talking about, where it's like meeting the demand. That's the thing, is people aren't comfortable with not meeting the demand. Like, I'm perfectly okay with the idea of a fucking wait list outside, like around the building. Yeah. Like, to me, that, number one, could potentially make it a luxury product, so we could start price gouging people a little bit. Honestly, like if we're going to be like serious about it, no, if we're going to be serious about it, I mean, demand should equal higher prices, but instead it's equal lower prices because we're being dictated by insurance companies and we're being forced to take on exorbitant caseloads in order to justify the paychecks that we're getting, which makes no fucking sense. Because when you have like such a massive demand deficit, prices for your services should go up, and also your ability to control the narrative and control the interaction should be greater. So how does that work with the other way around, where it's like, it seems to be the opposite, where we're getting less and less control over the types of cases that people have. They have less and less control over the way that interaction goes, less and less control over the ability to dictate terms in terms of like, hey, you want X outcomes? Well, guess what? You have to do X, Y, and Z because this is science, not fucking magic. So if you really do want to do this one or two things that totally violate the laws of behavior, and not like the laws of behavior because I said so, the laws of behavior because it's like fucking gravity and you can't change that shit, then you can't expect me to actually have any level of efficacy. So like, but people aren't comfortable looking anyone in the eye and saying that to them. From my experience, and like back to the
do you say
I
it?
absolutely
You're like, hey,
say
listen,
that shit.
I'm gonna price gouge a little bit. Is that the
I'm
word?
not going to price gouge. No, we don't have that conversation, but we definitely have the conversation where it's like, in order for me to help you, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Otherwise, this is not going to be a fruitful relationship, and I'd rather just not do this.
And that's ethical, though. If people aren't going to help you as well, like,
so
to
like
do
it's
what's
a
best for your
bi-directional
client.
relationship for sure. Like,
no, but it sucks when you're a BCBA somewhere and like they're like, oh yeah, sure, we'll take this kid in and this kid in, and this kid has an autism diagnosis, but I don't really think they have it. But YOLO, and it's like, dude, I do not need to give someone who is so high functioning and 16 years old 15 hours a week. They're like, what? That's low. And then you have to argue with your company and say, what do you mean? What do you think I'm doing there all day?
That's a great segue topic, though, because then the question is, if you're talking about having to give that many hours a week of a quote-unquote medically necessary thing,
it's embarrassing.
How is it a medical problem and not an educational one? And then if it's an educational one, then why the fuck are we talking about insurance companies, not talking about how we can get funded through the education system, so that way we don't have to deal with prior authorization, we don't have to deal with fucking regulated hours, managed care, whatever the fuck. We get guaranteed money, and we're actually doing what we do, which is called skill building, okay? Not just behavior reduction and teaching people shit. Like, the thing is that what we do is teach people. We teach them. Like, we can call it behavior analysis, and we can call it the modification of environmental variables to facilitate behavior change. But what that is teaching. We just do it in the most scientifically effective way that we know, which is through...
And use big language so we sound like assholes.
Boom. Exactly.
And sadly, perception's reality. And I think what most people have realized is that people describe us as the behavior reduction or put us into the medical model, and we chase that cash. Exactly. To the point that our reality now is that we are this one group of people that are largely working on this one nest egg, right? And and this is like I think a perfect.
I ask every family I'm going to work with. I say, I ask them, why do you need me? Like I ask them.
You're not
question.
supposed to ask why when you do a FBA.
Why? You're not. Why?
Because your job is to figure out why they do that behavior.
That's ridiculous. That's
the behavior bitch is calling you out, bro.
Oh my god. Let's do this thing.
Dukes up.
Put your dukes up, Holmes.
I wanted to go a certain way if you guys are cool with it, but like what we're living through right now is the realization of just how invested our field is in this one area. 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when Calaba was canceled, I was like, oh shit, this is serious. And a lot of people, my first thing I did was post on the Daily BA, like, do you think this is going to set the trend and this is a continued thing that we worry about, or do you not think so? The overwhelming majority of responses were that was a little too overboard and like, this is not setting the trend. Fast forward, here's where we're at. Things are crazy. I hope behavior analysts start to take these, like, start to spend this time that they can reasonably right now thinking about, like, what could my skill sets do and how could I build out to where I'm not just in one spot? Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah,
like, now's the time for us to, like, take.
I totally agree with it.
The axe is over our heads. There's nothing we can do about it as a large community outside of, rare exceptional people here.
It's a natural opportunity to draw a line in the sand, establish boundaries, establish professional respect for yourself, and make particular demands for how you want your work life balance to be and how you want to perform professionally. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, like where you want to work.
Fuck
right?
it. This opportunity is never going to come
Can
again.
you ask the question again? I was distracted.
Just so for
Oh my
example,
god, wait, you were
like,
distracted, Liat? That's
like
so
how
weird.
many
Like, is that like a high thing or like a not paying attention thing?
how many
high? No, I'm
since-
not high. I
how
learned
many we were talking at the beginning
So
of
are you
this, like,
talking, Ryan, about like, okay, so
How many
other
people are
arenas
getting-
versus autism, right?
yeah, but how many people are getting laid off right now asking you specifically, where can I get a job with these
telehealth.
skill
Everyone's
sets?
like, where can I work for telehealth right now?
Yeah.
And it's like
I'm also
telehealth
getting
was already hard enough to find. Now it's like, I mean, the people who are already looking at it, like a lot of people in the field who are like females, like gave birth or pregnant or can't work right now, maternity leave, they want to do telehealth. Now it's like everyone wants to do telehealth, which is already hard enough to find, and now everyone wants to do it. I mean, maybe they need to find, I mean, but you're saying we're so pigeonholed into autism that like
unfortunately, like the only way that we're going, like we were talking about the issues of certification, supervision, these sort of things. And the way I look at it is like right now is a defining point where we have to, like, unfortunately, the natural events that are playing out right now are going to be things that force us to have to design differently. Or we can be completely foolish and just say, oh, this will weather away a little bit and we're just going to keep going down the route that we're going. But this right now of what our field is experiencing, people that are laid off, sitting at home on furlough, is what happens when we have just one industry that we're in, right? Just one solution that we're largely in.
You know, it's kind of like this one quote I saw on this one. I know I keep quoting these entrepreneur Instagram things. It's like, if you only have one hustle, you only have one income, you're one thing away from poverty or something like that. And so it's like this idea, like if you're so pigeonholed in autism and autism's not covering it at this moment, I mean, not that I think that everyone needs to have 10 hustles. BCBA is like enough work, you know, and availability. But I mean,
well, I think what you said earlier to me, Liat, you called me. And I mean, I know what you're saying right now. Like that thing that you just said, I was like, oh my God, that's terrible. Like you don't have multiple things.
I follow these inspirational
I'm like, that's
things.
crazy, bitch. Like, that's insane.
Gary Vee?
Please. Yeah, like, please.
No, have you not read that before? It's like, if you only have one income.
That's Gary Vee. He quotes that all the time. He's like, you need to have that revenue stream, get your hustles going.
But what you said to me
Diversify that
today, Liat, you were like, it's the businesses that will survive or the people that can adapt to like what the new things are. So like at Study Notes or Behavior Bitches or whatever we're going to do, like how do we adapt to it to, continue our business?
Well, and what
life coaching, bro.
What I was getting from a few BCBAs and IBTs is people were asking specifically, like, what is a BCBA skill set now valuable for? Right. Because it's not valuable for the thing that it's largely valuable for, which is autism insurance, right? And that's where I think people are totally confused as to what to do next. And our field should have designed these.
Those kids are still there.
They are.
And now they're in home. There's just this like virus thing. Like that's the one thing we have to remember. It's not like suddenly, like, for example, for our classes online, if the internet went out, like we can no longer do it. Like this is like those kids are still there. There's just like this unknown period right now of like how, like we don't know enough about this virus going around, but like it's not like these kids are missing suddenly. Like people who were pregnant are still pregnant. They're probably freaking out that they're pregnant during this time. But kids are going to be born with autism.
For sure. And I'm not discrediting that, but the fact that our entire field, like the number one attended webinar so far out of this was how to lay off and furlough your employees. That's been the number one attended webinar as a result of this. And so that's
who did that?
That's
the
not a
Grim
concern.
Fucking Reaper. Like
it was titled.
Who hosts that webinar?
I think Ryan held it.
I think Ryan. Yeah.
Was that you, dude?
No, I did not hold it. It was not titled that, but it was the bullet points that were in the the Behavior Health Center of Excellence. And the reason being, just like what we talked about, why Behavior Bitches pops off and people are showing up and there's a community there. Business owners wanted to know, what the hell do I do? I don't have cash to get through this. Yeah. Is my understanding of it all. And the reason, man. So the thing is that, the children are always going to be there, but I think what our field hopefully starts to discuss and learn right now is like, we can't have just that, like you're saying, that one revenue stream, which people are usually like, oh, I have all these insurance companies and I've got 8 or 10 revenue streams.
All this, yeah.
If you just have that one area, you're really toast. Like some of the behavior analysts I've been talking to that do mental health services as well.
They're killing it right now. Let me tell you.
Well, that's it. It's like, I guess the point here is that our field, I think, literally needs to rethink the ways in which we try to say, like, this is what behavior analysis is and how we go about training people. But is it just our field? Is it just our field? Because let's say there's someone who is like specific in, like, I know someone in underwear manufacturing, right? Like, that's what they're in. Like, that's what they've been making money in. What are they supposed to do? Go have other trades as well?
I mean, they're going to go totally broke. I mean, everyone's asses are going to be so clean. I mean, considering so much toilet paper that's being used. So
well, I was like,
there's no need for underwear
in
anymore.
The underwear industry,
no one even needs that shit.
So I was just saying, like, no, they could advertise it as like.
I mean, let's just bring this full circle again.
I'm sorry,
to what we were
I didn't make a
talking
toilet
about.
paper joke. My
It
bad.
was good.
I was waiting for it.
No, I was saying they could wipe with it if they need to sell it as that. That's like could be like
good.
their new.
Their dirty underwear.
No, but I'm saying like.
Oh, I was gonna bring it full circle back to like, and it might not be full circle, maybe in my first full circle head, but like. When we started Behavior Bitches podcast, we never, ever, ever once imagined that it would be where it's at today, with the number of listeners and the fact that we get emails and direct messages every day of people who are saying how much they needed to hear this breath of fresh air in the
Absolutely.
field. How much, and even, Dimitri.
I sent you one.
Yeah, I had no idea that even existed in the app of Anchor.
That's cool.
I was like, what is this voice recording? I probably heard it like 2 months late, but I get them probably, 50 a day of like on different platforms of just like, hey guys, thank you so much. This is where I'm at. I need advice, or I just I heard you and now I'm reinvigorated. My love of the field because I was burnt out, or all these things that.
Well, it's because everyone takes themselves so fucking seriously, man. Like, look, real knows real. That's why I hit you guys up. But I mean, like, the big thing is that like. People in what we do take themselves so fucking seriously. It's exhausting. And it's that hardcore academic ivory tower fucking mindset that they bring to it where it's like, I don't know if you forget where you're from or whatever, but my mindset about every single person I know who's gotten in this field has gotten into it completely by accident. Like I got into it because of a DUI. Like
wow,
that's how I found
real truth bombs.
Like,
love that.
So I mean like really random
what happened?
like huh? I drank and I drove a car. That's. I mean,
so you're like, I need to become a behavior analyst.
And then 11,
like,
12 years,
like
12 years ago. Huh?
No, but then you're like, oh my gosh, I got in trouble. This must be punishment. This must be negative.
It was
punishment.
more like I was
totally
a car salesman at the time.
Analyst.
No, I was a car salesman at the time. I hated my life. And I met a dude doing community service at the zoo of all places. We worked the fucking chain.
Have you guys watched Tiger King?
No.
What? On Netflix? Okay, when you guys all leave this podcast, everyone go watch Tiger King.
It's on my thing.
Okay, yeah.
And he was like, I work with kids. Hey, I was like, I need to get the fuck out of there. I was like, I'm taking the first $13 an hour job that's coming by. And I took a job as a BT and worked my way up from there. So like I got into it, no fucking clue. And everyone I know that's any good at this at least have gotten into it that way. So it's the island of misfit fucking toys. But then the general like thing we have to operate within is like this uppity, hoity-toity, ivory tower elitist kind of fucking mindset. So it's like, okay, you have on one hand the tightest rectums in the universe dictating terms to people who are actually
so
just like blue collar folks. You know what I mean? So it's like, how is that possible that I can't function under this paradigm? So like I've been angry at it for a long time. So that's where our podcast kind of came from, where it's like, you can actually be very smart at this and have the language and understand the hyper technical shit and also be a regular human being and converse like regular people do. Like they just talk shit.
No, but you're even cooler if you could pair with the regular human being on the street.
Yeah, but I mean, you should be able to do that. That's our job though. Like,
no, but a lot of people can't. Like, it's like, hi, I'm a CBA. I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
It's
and
like,
I guess what I was trying to say is hopefully this fucked up situation the world's experiencing right now for like global behavior analysts is also a pretty strong setting event for like, we all need to rethink shit, right?
Yeah, man. This has been a really self-reflective period, I think, for a lot of people, including myself.
100%. It's like all I think about every day.
Like I have to say, like I admire like your story where you're like, fuck it, dude, I lost my fingertips. I'm just going to do this because I like this. This is where my joy is. I'm going to follow my joy.
And it reduces the chances of you having flare-ups and shit like that, right? Like,
yeah.
No, you don't understand how it literally, I was petrified. I was so stressed every day. Like, I need to be in work tomorrow. Liat, you can't get sick tonight. You can't get sick tonight. You got to be in work tomorrow. You got to be there. You got to be there. You have this. Or like, and I was so stressed. Like, my health has improved. If I took data, like in the amount of flare-ups I get, like it has improved drastically. I used to be like, I need to get 12 hours sleep. Now I probably get like 5, but like I'm so passionate about what I do and like love it. But it takes these things, these life events that like set you up for this thing. So like right now, I mean, I in one sense am seeing some positive things from it. To be honest, I mean, look, it sucks when things are like affected, you know, like economically or these different things. But I'm like, I was feeling like I was so overstimulated all the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, this news is overstimulating. I have to like literally rip myself away from my phone.
Yeah,
but
dude,
like,
it's hard.
But like a lot of things, like I'm like, holy shit. I was like so caught up in this like, oh my God, I got to do this on Instagram. I got to do this. I got to do this here. Like when you're like creating stories, people are like, oh, your life is just so fun making Instagram stories all the time. It's like, dude, that's work. You know, like being creative, like, oh my God, I'm making a smoothie. Look at me chaining. Oh yeah. You know, like all the time. It's like, oh my God, discriminated avoidance. I totally saw a guy coughing. Like all the time your brain has to be working. But like, it's also like a lot of things, like my life was just like in such fast motion before. It's like, okay, I can't find my Roku remote. I'll just order a new one, right? Like that second. It's like, whoa, like, first of all,
that sounds like you did that shit. Just to be clear,
I
like I believe you did that.
Times, like,
that's not
a
random
thing,
example.
no, for sure. If you look at my Amazon account, it's like I probably order like every few days iPhone chargers. Okay, like oh, Cooper ate this one, Pavlov ate that one. Those are my dogs. Like, okay, I'll have to, whatever it is. I'm like, dude, it was just like this like fast paced life. Like, okay, make it work. Okay, Liat, you got to work. So like, you got to get a housekeeper to clean this and save. Like, it's like, dude, no. Like, it just put things in perspective. Like financially, number one, right? Like, what's important?
Be responsible. Yeah. Don't blow
like,
your money on dumb shit.
Yeah, like this life of just like, it's okay, I'll just order more, or you know, like I'm really thinking about things that I put money into before I do it, or just being able to see other people, you know, like you become so like, especially when you do social media, you're just seeing yourself and what you're doing and like focusing on yourself, which is great in one way because like literally my thing has been like, I do not see any competition. Like I do not need to look at what they're doing. I feel so passionate about what I'm doing. But another thing is I could see all the players involved to make anything I do work, right? Like suddenly I'm realizing how interconnected we all are. What can I do to help this person? Or wow, like for me to get that, it takes this running. So Mr. Parcel is doing this, so I should go to there. They're a smaller business as opposed to UPS or this or that. And it's just like, wow, like all these interrelated I just feel like we had gotten to such a point as a society of just being like, you know, we look to these people who are successful because they're rich and because of that. And it's just like reflecting like, that's not success, right? Like these people are equally just as breakable, if not anything, like as soon as the economy's done, like what substance do they have to them? You know, and like, that's kind of like reflecting I already had to do like multiple times, like losing a lot of things that maybe like were, you know, like re-identifying myself when I lost my fingertips was like, fuck, I can't just be this cute young little girl anymore who's like cute and funny. It's like, no, I gotta like have something else to offer. So I've had to reinvent myself before. And I think this is the opportunity for a lot of people to do that. And it sucks, but it's like bringing people a lot, like, you know, we're all back on the same playing field here. Like there's not one fucking person who's not affected in some way from this, what's going on in the world.
I'm telling you right now, this is the thing. Like I spent the last week kind of freaking out. Honestly, not even for me, but for my staff. Because like these are people that make 13, 14, 15 bucks an hour living paycheck to paycheck. Like the idea of them going a month even without a paycheck, I feel for them in a way where it's literally I'm losing sleep over it. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on a fucking podcast and I want attention. Like these people matter to me. Like they're fucking real humans. These people get punched in the face on a day-to-day basis. We sweat together. They get poop flung at them together. Like it's horrible. Like the reality that I see for them coming in the next couple months. But on the inverse of that, for myself personally in a selfish way, like I see so much opportunity that's going to come from this because there's going to be so many gaps in the market and so many gaps in people's desires and needs and shifting interests to where it's an opportunity if you're going to fucking like see that shit and latch onto something. And I honestly think that stuff like we're doing where it's just kind of like real talk and just talking and just not being entertaining, but also informative in this kind of, I think it's going to continue to get more and more better just better in general for people like us, because I think people are tired of bullshit too. I mean, like there's that, when you were talking, you made me think of that Henry David Thoreau quote, most people live lives of quiet desperation, you know? And that's the reality of it, is that when you get into a fucking routine, you know, in a culture that worships billionaires as morally virtuous in lieu of just being fucking cajillionaires, you know, and the level of decadence that we've achieved is, it creates a certain sense of comfort, but also hollowness. Like it's just shallow and empty on the inside, you know?
No, that's how I started feeling. It was weird. For a while, I'd be like, you know, I'm Jewish and grew up in like an Orthodox household. And like, I know there's certain times in my MO for like being religious, like when my fingers were freezing off and God was like making everything go wrong in my life, or sorry to be mentalistic, I was just like, shit, I got to look at things. But then like, I literally found like, I didn't have time to like pray, or like, I'm not someone to like go and like read the Torah or the Bible, whatever it is. Like, but just even like, I was just so busy all the time. Like, I feel like I've been able to like really be the most insightful right now and like look at these things and being like, wow, I'm so blessed I have this, or like, I'm so blessed I have that, you know, as opposed to, I mean, you just go through the moves all the time and it's just, you know, you're just doing these things you're doing. And it's just like really like, fuck,
Yeah,
you know,
it wasn't a popular like concept, but they talked about this in our research actually as like a disruptor, like something that literally disrupts all of the contingencies that are going on right now.
It's awesome. It resets the board, man.
Yeah, and
you just control alt deleted society.
Yeah, and that's
reset.
That's what you're describing. And like, if anyone's curious, like disruptor is the term to look back in like the old 70s fucking research. But it's
side note, there's a great book called Disrupt You. It's a business book people should read if they're interested in what disruption can do to markets. Disrupt You.
Yeah, and that's like, we're all in a sense having the shared experience of a disruptor altering everything, right?
No, we have. Like, I've been offering. So for our community at SNABA and Behavior Bitches, I think we owe it to our, you know, people who, you know, spend money on our Patreon, who, you know, support us in our business, to have something. So 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we've been doing just like a live Zoom for free. Like, it's just, let's make coffee and shoot the shit. We did 2 truths and a lie. We've done a guided meditation on self-love in the morning so that people aren't waking up, turning the news on, right? Because that anxiety builds. I know when my husband goes to work at 5:30 a.m. because he's still working, I'm like, and knowing I can come on with like, you know, this group of people, and we all just literally have come together, and it's something I never would have done ever. There was never an MO for me to ever do this in my entire life, but it's been great, and yeah, so
it's crazy. Like, you could literally go into Costco, which I'm not, because I am like, I don't have an immune system, so I'm like totally locked down. But you could go in and you could say to someone like, hey, how's it going? And every person's in your situation, they'll be like, weird. And you know what they're talking about, you know, like weird.
No, I go like this, 6 feet. I just yell at people when I'm walking down the road.
No, but the most weird behaviorally, okay, this is like a cool behavior thing I've seen going on, is like, so I'm walking my dog still, and I've noticed like we're on opposite sides of the street, okay, me and someone else. Like there's 4 cars could fit next to each other probably. They're not waving. Like, it's like we're too scared to wave, right? So
I noticed that actually.
I'm
That's
like,
funny.
hey,
I went on a walk.
And then I think I was thinking that we need to do a Behavior Bitches episode. Maybe you guys come on and we can talk about how superstitious behavior comes to be. Because today I'm like, oh, wow, those are huge birds. It must be vultures because coronavirus people are dying. Like, so now I'm like, oh, that's how it happens. Like everything. So my husband went to Walmart the other day. He's like the one we send out, but now I can't even send him out anymore. Right? He's my CMOT, but I send him out and he gets there and he forgets his wallet. And he's like, oh, must be a sign that someone in there has it. He comes home, doesn't get anything he meant to get at Walmart. He doesn't go back. So it's like all these superstitious behaviors are built because of this like huge situation going on that I actually find it fascinating. Like people won't greet each other. It's like, dude, we're on the same team.
I wonder how much that. I know. So like
people were averting their eyes. Like we walked to get ice cream yesterday, and like we ate it outside, and it's hilarious that you say that because there were like 4 different families with their kids because people were obviously losing their fucking minds. And so I know I'm like Like, it's
Yeah,
been a couple
isn't it?
times where my wife could have found me in here hanging from the rafter there for a second. They're just getting really fucking cooped up.
Jesus.
Like, really cooped up. But I mean, like, we're sitting there and people are eating their ice cream, like, their faces down, completely averted for fear of making eye contact. That's hilarious because that's literally how bad
No,
it's been.
I mean, this is a great time to
That's
get
true.
into some social experiments. I feel like, Brian, if we need to shoot some videos, if you like need any activity to do, we should do things like, because there's like that one social experiment where people in the elevator, for example, like if someone faces backwards,
Uh-huh.
people like freak the fuck out, right?
Yeah.
There's like some experiment about it. Like right now is the time to like literally even like switch to the same side of the street of someone. Even if you go like 6 feet, it's like these unspoken like rule governed behavior that's just like, you're like, what are they doing? Are they coming to hug me? Are they coming near me with that? Like my doorbell rang yesterday and I saw a guy like running off, which happens to be the Amazon driver. Like I live at like a dead end.
Yeah.
So I guess he was like running back up like from the dead end. And I'm like, oh my God, someone must have dropped Corona outside and like literally run away. And I'm like, bro, I am going nuts.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
I was
it's
on the
weird
brink on
times.
Thursday. I think I called Ryan every day this past week. I'm just like,
No,
just talk to me,
Liat and
man. I just need
talk
to
at,
hear
like,
voices.
7 a.m. I'm like, if
Shit's
you
getting
can't answer
crazy.
your phone, I don't know what to do with myself.
It's funny. Yeah, I can't take that. I'm a busybody. This shit is hard.
Yeah. I've been trying to set.
Are you recording still?
Yeah. What's up?
Hi.
Yeah, we're recording.
No,
Hi,
no,
girlfriend.
no, we're not recording. No, we're not recording.
You already disrupted, so what's up?
It's me who sent you the scrunchies.
Kind of like you were just talking.
Oh, yeah. No. We're still recording. Please hold.
Where are you? This
We
is
gotta
not
You need
end.
to go?
My husband's like, it's been an hour and a half, Casey. When the fuck are you done? So yeah, we gotta end this soon.
My husband doesn't give a shit about me.
You sent him out to go get you shit, I'm sure.
He's at
he's not
Costco
anymore.
right now, so.
What were
We
we
sent the
talking
healthy
about?
ones. I was talking about, I have no idea. That it's just weird, superstitious behavior.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, so in Reno, what I've seen is like I don't go to places like I haven't been going to the store and places like that, and I'm sure there's what you guys are talking about happening there. I live right next to an old golf course that was converted into like running trails. I've seen easily 5 to 10 times more people on those than I normally do. And I usually initiate it, not others. I'm gonna probably flip that around and like take some anecdotal data on it. But I'll wave to people and they just smile and say what's up. Like we're this like friendly, tucked away Northwest community, but it may just be because I'm like
No.
modeling it, and they're like, oh, we're
No,
gonna say hi,
Texas
so
is
he just
pretty
gets
nice.
the fuck away from me.
New Hampshire? No, literally. I know. We have these trails outside of my house here, so my husband and I
Yeah.
have been just like getting out for like 10 minutes a day. Right? Let's just walk.
Uh-huh.
And same thing. Like typically, it's a private community. I maybe see 0 people during the day. I could walk
Mhm.
this. We saw probably 20 people yesterday, and we were all like, and we would do the joke. We'd be like, "Hi, how are you? 6 feet." Like everyone was like thinking the same joke was funny to people we've never talked to our entire lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I live in New Hampshire, tiny town. So I don't know about you and Dimitri, Liat, but y'all need to moved to a nicer town.
I mean,
Kidding.
it's just,
Texas
it
is
was
so
funny
nice.
because
Stop signs are usually like, no,
I
you
thought it
go,
was
no, you
hilarious.
go, no, you go, no, you go. No, seriously, you go. Like that's stop signs here. It's just,
I
like,
literally
weird.
made a comment. I was like, I just went to wave at this guy and he fucking averted his eyes. Like, and I think it's because he had 3 teenage like not teenage, like young adolescent boys, like 8 to 11,
Yeah.
with him, and it was like the shame of having them all hang out while he had them out violating the law.
People are like acting weird.
It was just fucking bizarro land, man. It's just really weird.
Yeah.
With
It's
strange
weird. And if you
times.
do step outside, you don't take a pic of it, you know, because it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just weird times. It's a weird time to be alive, but it's a unique time to be alive. And when this passes, hopefully we'll be like, there're going to be so many memes about it, you know, like that one time.
I mean, that's the thing is that like when you're talking about the next Great Depression potentially, because that's what people are talking. That's what the news is saying.
Civil
Dude, I
Economically,
know.
war, some kind of civil unrest,
like
depression
20%,
rates.
20% unemployment.
Mhm.
Like 20%, like that. 1 out of 5 people won't work. That's.
And that's
I mean, whoa.
since I was reading up on Andrew Yang's book, like you told me to, that's the people that are actively seeking it. That doesn't count everybody that's on disabilities or not actively seeking employment too. So like if we start hitting unemployment rates of that, like it's actually compounded even higher.
So it's not like it's weird. It's a weird time, and I think that like I don't know, maybe for the first couple weeks, people are going through the whole paranoid emotional roller coaster ride that I even went on, like for real.
Yeah.
Like, but I think that like even yesterday and today, personally, I woke up and I was like, you know what? I literally can control 0% of this shit. Fuck it, man. Like,
Yeah.
it is what it is. Like, we'll
It's
make
your
it through.
reaction.
Like,
You can control how you react. That's
exactly. That's all you can control, man. You can control how you're responding to it and what it's doing to you emotionally and shit. And that's what the most important thing is, because like if you try to be a control freak about it, or you just fret about it, or think worrying about it's some way going to influence it, like you're really not just wasting energy, you're harming yourself. Like it's self-injurious. Like for
Guys,
real, like don't do it.
Worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. Okay.
Oh, nice. I like that. I like
I've
that.
been exercising.
Except
like,
maybe a
thank
little bit
God.
of like stronger 6-pack.
Yeah, I'm like,
No, I've been practicing a lot of CBT. Like, I came home from a semester of college, like super depressed over a breakup. Thank God that happened. It was like setting me up for this time of my life. I've been like literally analyzing thoughts that come into my mind and like actively saying like, Liat, that's a thought. Liat, that's a fact. Okay. Like that's a thought. Yeah, sure. You like, no, but seriously, because it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
then leave yourself to only worry about the actual facts, right? So like, it's like, Liat, what if you get a flare up right now and you like, I know what pain is. Like when my fingers start freezing again or I get in pain, that's the shit's like scary, right? And I'm like, what if that happens to me and I can't seek help right now? Or like,
Mhm.
I don't have an immune system and I'm gonna have
she's
to go
just
to a
lucky
hospital.
she has me to help her run the business.
Right.
Yeah.
And I told you, you're lucky that I've been preparing for this since 2012. But no, seriously, it's like, and I'm like, dude, Liat, don't worry about that right now. Let's worry about that. Like if you do have a flare up and you need to be seen, you know, like,
Yeah.
and like actively going through these thoughts and like practicing these exercises, like not just like saying to do this, like actually practicing what I'm saying to do, because you can't help having crazy thoughts right now. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's normal.
I mean,
Private
my
events
friend,
are
who's
going
my
nuts.
friend who's a
No idea.
psychologist, she's like, how the hell? She's a psychologist. She's like, how am I supposed to listen to everyone else's problems when I'm pregnant, petrified for myself, and they're talking about their coronavirus? Like, I'm like it's the weirdest time to be there for others when you're scared yourself.
Yeah.
Typically, when you have some setback in life, like when I've like been really sick before, I knew like my parents were in a good place, or this family friend was in a good place to help me out. It's like everyone's fucking affected, so it's really weird feelings.
Yeah, it is.
I think this is actually a pretty good natural spot to lead people at.
Yeah.
I was going to recommend, if anyone's looking for a resource on like what Liat's talking about, there's a book called Get Out of Your Mind Into Your Life by Steve Hayes, Spencer Smith. Spencer's his first name. I know him. I think his last name's Smith, but it's a really useful resource. It's like $10. If you can't afford that, email, hit us up on social media and we'll help you find a copy of something that you can get your hands on that. I think it's a pretty cool resource.
As well as A Liberated Mind. That's a really
Yeah.
good one by
Mhm.
Steve
Yeah.
Hayes.
And then one more recommendation, like semi-philosophy book, and also from a psychiatrist, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Oh,
I highly
great
recommend
book.
it. Highly
Great
recommend
book.
Is there anything else you guys want to leave people with? I feel like this is a
I
good
was
spot to
looking
leave
for
folks.
this CBT this workbook that I had, and I can't find what it is, but
I mean,
That's
I think
cool.
what I'll say is it's trying crazy times right now. Come together and support each other. I know that, I don't know if you want to put this in, Ryan, but I know Shane Spiker and the behavioral analytic girl is doing a
Yeah.
fundraiser for RBTs that maybe need support, and BCBAs that can support, or anyone that can friggin'
Yeah, yeah.
support, right? I know I signed up to be a supporter, even if it's just sending grocery cards. I know we touched on this a little bit earlier, but
Cool.
it's a time where you just support each other. Whatever we can friggin' do as a community, come the fuck together and support each other.
Love it.
completely. This is also for BCBAs. I know someone who was a BCBA was like, "Can I do it too?" You know, like I just got hired for a job and didn't get a single hour, so it's everyone all around. But the book that I'm talking about is Mind Over Mood. Change how you feel by changing the way you think, and it's by Dennis Greenberger, and you could get it on eBay for super cheap because it's been around a while, and
Yeah.
it's super helpful to,
It's great.
Cool.
you know, work through these thoughts.
But
in one let's end with one positive thing. One
Sure.
positive thing to end with is what I've seen it's, if anyone knows the ABA community, like a lot of these like big dogs playing in the field are typically like very competitive, right? With whether it's finding BCBAs, getting clients, this and that, which is totally not necessary. There's enough clients for everyone, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
I've actually seen them coming together to brainstorm what to do. So it's kind of cool seeing people coming together for certain things as opposed to, you know, looking at this as like, okay, even more competition now, which clients are keeping their hours. It's like, dude, we're all equally fucked. Let's all get together, which is pretty cool. So yeah.
And
Stay
also,
inside.
this last hour and a half of my life was really fucking fun. So thank you guys.
Good. Yeah, no, thanks. We had a blast. Super fun, marvelous.
Y'all make sure you check out
for the listeners, just a common thing we do here. Flat Earth Society continues to maintain itself at 210,000 likes on Facebook. However, we've seen an increase in the total pages of Flat Earth from 6 to 8. So their movement continues to expand, guys. Let's get our shit together.
Even in trying times, they're expanding.
yeah.
Our science is exploding, but Flat Earth is growing.
Flat Earth is crushing everything. It's unbelievable.
2020. No one would have predicted this.
No.
I know. I thought this was like Y2K, but whatever.
All right, well, let's end it there.
Well, y'all guys are a pleasure.
Peace, y'all.
Later, Gator. It was super fun, for real.
Love you, mean it.
Marvelous.